Welcome to another unboxing video. It is I, Class 47 Peter, talking to you right now, because who else is going to be? And today we are having a look at a Bachmann model, as you can see by the logo on the box there. And it's in their older style of packaging, as you can see, which isn't the plastic packaging that we're all getting used to. It's the polystyrene packaging. I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of the plastic packaging, but there you go, we all have different preferences. Now in today's review, we're going to have a look at a diesel locomotive. And there is no prizes for guessing to us what class of diesel locomotive we are going to be looking at. I mean, I don't think I really need to tell you what it is, because within seconds I'm clicking on the video, it's not only the title that gives it away, but the intro at the start of the video also gives it away as well. And also the picture in front of the box gives it away as well. This class of locomotive is really well known among the rail enthusiasts. Guaranteed, I don't think there'll be a single rail enthusiast out there that won't know what this class of locomotive is or won't know anything about it. And if there is, I would be very surprised indeed. And this locomotive seems to be well known, of sorts, with some people outside of the hobby, because before now I have spoken to some people that aren't into trains about the hobby I'm into, and some of them have asked me about this class of locomotive, about whether I've seen it or not. And I think that speaks for itself, just how well known these locomotives are, because back in the day they were very popular, and even today they're still going strong in preservation, and they're still popular today. And this locomotive is none other than the mighty Class 55 Deltic. Now, I have been meaning to get my hands on a Bachmann Deltic for quite some time, and for most of you fellow subscribers, unless you're new to the channel of course, you will probably know that in the past I have owned a Lima Deltic, which I got rid of to eventually replace it with a Bachmann model, which I finally now have, because I thought the next model to get had to be a Deltic. So it's about time I had one. Because these locomotives, they are really iconic. Whether it's your favourite class of locomotive or not, you've got to love them. I mean, these locomotives might not necessarily be on my personal favourite diesel locomotives list, but I think we can all agree there's something about them that makes them tick, if that's how you want to put it. Now, I should point out, this model is not in BR blue, and this is something that's not really uncommon with Bachmann's older packaging, because the card inserts that they used to supply with the models when they did the older packaging, they can be misleading. It's alright if you get a model in the same livery as it's shown on the photograph, but if it's in a different livery as the one shown on the photograph, then that is where it's misleading. It's a good thing that they do have some information written on the one end of the box. Sorry, I stuttered there slightly. I don't know why there's a sticker on the end of the box there. I'll just take that off. I don't particularly really need it to, but I've done it anyway. So this model is 32525A, Class 55 Deltic, 5502, 55002, sorry, I'll get that right. And it's called the King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry in BR Green. So I've basically got a coily, which is what it's known as for short. And this is one of the Deltics that's in preservation, which is really cool. Thumbs up to that. Right, let's get this model open and see what it's like, because I'm dying to see how it looks. Although I have seen this model in pictures, but I'm dying to see what it looks like in the flesh. And this model came from S&J Models, by the way. So, there's the box that we'll put to one side. Then here's the card insert for the Class 55 Deltic, which the image of the Deltic they've used on the photo is 55019 Royal Highland Fusilier, which is one of the Deltics that's in preservation. Then on the back you have a drawing of the Deltic, or of a Deltic rather, It's not a Pacific one. And you get some brief history of this class of locomotive. Now, the Deltics were built in 1961 to 1962, and 22 of them were produced, the last one being Royal Scots Grey, which is in preservation. 6 of these have survived into preservation, 6 of them being the locomotives themselves, and 2 cabs from 2 of the locomotives has also survived as well. And they were known as Deltics, which the name was taken from the prototype Deltic, being DP1. Not DP2, because that came after DP1. DP1 is the one that's preserved at the National Railway Museum. I don't think it's kept at the National Railway Museum now, but it is preserved by them. And the name was taken from the Napier Deltic power units that it had in the locomotive, hence why it's called Deltic. And some locomotives were named after winning famous racehorses, which was something that was carried on by the LNER. Not all of them were named after racehorses, but some of them were. It's like with the A3s, basically. And these replaced the LNER A4s. They did indeed. These were built to replace the A4s on the express duties. I know they probably also replaced some of the other express locomotives as well, but as far as my knowledge goes, they replaced the A4s. I do believe they were built to mostly replace the A4s for the duties on what they did, in which they operated on trains such as the Elizabethan, which was an A4 hauled passenger train, and the Flying Scotsman. Now, A4s did not operate on the Flying Scotsman all the time, but they did from time to time. And the Deltics were eventually replaced by the Class 43 HSTs, which would go on to be the next generation of express trains. And the Deltics were finally withdrawn in 1982 after the farewell tour, which was called the Deltic Scotsman Farewell, and then they were later put on display at Doncaster before cutting them up commenced, basically. And like I said, 6 of them are preserved. Had to think then, don't know why. And so there's 55022 Royal Scots Grey being the last one built. Then there's 55002, which is this one, Coyley, King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry. Then there's number 9, Ellisiden, which was one of the ones named after a famous racehorse. Then there's 55016, Gordon Highlander, 55015, Toyar, 55019, Royal Highland Fusilier, which is the picture of the one on the card insert. And then there's 2 cabs from 2 locomotives that have also survived. 55008, the Green Herods. And then there's 55021, Argyll and Sutherland Highlander. So I think that's more than enough brief history on this class of locomotive. So we'll put that to one side. You don't get these now. The brief history nowadays is printed on the back of the boxes. And you don't get the drawings of the locomotives either, but you still get the brief history, which is nice. Then we have this leaflet for S&J models, and this receipt that we'll take off. And so it's this usual thing, always wanted. Top prices paid. Hornby and Bachmann stock as seen on the website. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. So I'll just tear it up and stick it in the bin. Because we're not going to need it really at the end of the day. Then here we have all the other stuff. Here we have the instructions or care sheet for the Class 55 Deltic. Now it's important you do not throw these in the bin, because if you lose a part and you need it, in order to contact the Bachmann service care to get a spare part, then you need to use this sheet for reference, especially because it's got all these numbers on it, which are the numbers of the specific kit, so you can tell Bachmann which part you need. Because if you throw this in the bin and you end up with a model that needs a spare part, then you're going to have a major problem, basically. So I always recommend that you keep them, but they'll go into my folder later, being the first and only instructions for the Deltic. Then we have these. which are etched metal nameplates. Ho ho. It's not very often that you come across a model with etched metal nameplates, and that is a really nice touch that Bachmann have done that. Which I will glue on the model later. However, I will not be using super glue. I'll be using a different adhesive. I'll be using some gel sort of glue stuff, which still works as well, because I'm not using super glue because I don't want white blemish marks on the model which have to wipe off or cover over. You know, when you do it once, you know, it's not really much of an issue, but you don't want it to happen again anyway. But I will put those on the loco later. And they're quite detailed as well, these etched metal nameplates. So I'll put those to one side, ready to be glued on later. Then we have the collector club flyer. We don't need that because I don't do the collector club much nowadays. And then we have the guarantee, which I don't usually tend to keep, but we'll take that to one side. Then we have the model lying in the polystyrene tray. Here we have the details, which I can't get out using my finger, so I have to use these tweezers to get them out. So there we go. And so in there we have handrails to go on the front of the loco, as you can see, which is what these parts are. And we also have a couple of lamp irons in there to go on the front of the loco. And then you've got these vacuum pipes as well to go on the buffer beams. So I'll add those on the model later. So what we do now is to get the model out of the box very carefully. I mean, I'm not personally a fan of the polystyrene packaging myself, and they've used this horrible tissue paper as well to wrap it up in. So there's the tray. We'll put it to one side, and then we'll just take the tissue paper off. Oh, look at that. This is an absolute monster. Well, they've used 2 sheets of tissue paper there, bizarrely, to wrap the model up in. I don't know why, but we'll get rid of that. Because as most of you all know, if not all of you, I do not like the tissue paper they use to wrap their models in. Because I just don't. You know, it's never always neat. Basically. There are a few bits of polystyrene on the model, I'll just brush them off. Using one of my old sister's makeup brushes that I've never given back to her. I just noticed a bit of polystyrene on the other end of the loco there, so I've just brushed it off. And so now we are free to have a look at the model itself. Now I think we can all agree she's an absolute beast. Just look at this. Much better by far than the Lima model, because the Lima model isn't that great in my opinion, but you know, this model, it's just brilliant. And I haven't even covered it in detail yet, but I just know that this model is going to be brilliant. So where can we start? Well, first of all, there's a lot of weight in this. It's quite heavy, which is what you want, because at the end of the day you want this to pull a train. If there's no weight in the model, then it cannot pull a train, so it's not going to be much use to you really on your layout. And this model has no traction ties because the weight does all that for you now. So they have done away with traction ties, although in some cases they still do use traction ties on the models, which is not brilliant, but there you go. But you don't see it very often much now, I'll be honest. So that's the weight covered. We then have the bogies, which the axle boxes on all of them are painted. I didn't paint them, they already came like that, as you know. Then you've got the other details, such as the springs and this step as well, cab step, which is very nicely detailed. The couplings are Nem, as you can see, which I will take this front one out and put it in my spares box later, but for now it will remain in. The buffers are the correct shape, being the oval ones, which the Deltics have in reality, and they are indeed sprung. So for those of you that like your sprung buffers, then this will make you happy. I have not much care for them, but they're there. Then at the front, on the buffer beam, we've got a hook at the front for a chain link coupling if you wish to add one in, and these holes in the buffer beam to stick the vacuum pipes in. And these holes on the front of the locomotive are where to stick the details, the handrails and the lamp irons. But you do have some lamp irons already fitted and some small lamp irons. You've got a warning sign on the front, and you've got this detail here, which is painted and looks very nice. I don't think that it's going to have working lights, but even so, they're there and they're nicely painted, which is a nice touch. There's another warning sign there, printed on the model, and the livery, it's just spot on. I mean, I've been always after one of these BR green livery Deltics for a while with the full yellow ends, and it looks really nice, I think. Not that there's anything wrong with the Deltics that have the small yellow warning panels on the front, but I quite like them with the full yellow panels. And the livery, it's just spot on. You've got the yellow on the bottom of the locomotive, the correct shade of green, white cab roofs, and, what should I say, yeah, white cab roofs, and the top of the roof on the locomotive itself is painted grey, which looks very nice and very attractive in my opinion. You've got some nice grills on the side of the loco there. The loco's running number 55002, crisply printed on the front there, and the BR8 logo, because they never had an early logo. Not on this loco anyway. Then you've got some handrails on the doors there, or door in this case, but it's on all the other doors. And you've got the horns, which are separately put on, as you can see, and this detail at the top here, which are some sort of storage place thing. I don't know what it actually is specifically, but it's there, just like on the real thing, and it's very nicely done. And you've got these separate wipers on the glazing there. There's glazing in the cab windows, which is nice to see, and there is some cab interior in there. It's not painted, but it's there, so it's nice. You've got some more grills at the top there on the roof, which is very nice. And you've got all these windows, which you can see through, and the outsides are painted silver, which is nice, as you can see. There's another door there with handrails at the side. Then you've got this grill in the middle, and these smaller grills underneath it. And these are the printed nameplates, so you don't have to put the etched ones on if you want to, but I'm going to put the etched ones on. As you can see, it says the King's Yorkshire Light Infantry. Of course, you wouldn't want it to say anything else. And then you've got the fuel tank, which is painted brown. Or green, you know. I'm assuming it's green actually. I mean, I am colourblind slightly, so you have to excuse that little error there for me saying it was brown. You know, because I just assumed it was brown, and then I quickly realised it was green. It's shades for me, but we won't go into it. Then you've got the fuel tank dial, as you can see there, which is painted and looks really nice. And you've got this detail here, painted silver, which is really nice. You've also got that little emblem printed on the top of the number there, which looks like a shield of some sort with the England flag on it, which looks really nice. Then here's the other bogie with the painted axle boxes and the springs and all the other details. And that might be some sort of filler cap where the fuel goes into of some sort, I'm not sure. But if you know where the comments box is. But it's there like on the real thing. Again, you've got the BR8 crest and the number on the side. More glazing in the cab windows on the other end. And in this end there's a driver, as you can see. So this is definitely the end that I'll be making the front of the logo, because it's going to look a bit weird if I make this in the front and there'll be a driver at the back. I mean, it's not going to matter because it's designed to go in both directions, but still. Again, buffers on this end are sprung, because if they weren't, then I don't think many people would be happy about that. Detail on the front is the same as like on the other end. Again, you've got a removable coupling with an M socket. And again, there is interior detail in the cab. It's just not painted, but it's there. Wipers on the windows, and they're separately put on horns. Then there's the other side of the loco. All these grills. Well, that's interesting. There's a bit of... I think I know what might have happened. I think the glazing might have come loose and it's fallen in the locomotive, because that does happen sometimes. Yeah, it's definitely in there. I can feel it rattling around. So I'll quickly sort that problem out. So I'll be back in a tick. Right, so we're back, and that glazing panel has been glued back in the model. And I've glued it back in using PVA. And the reason I have used PVA is because, well, I originally was looking at using poly cement, but the trouble is there is a risk of using poly cement, because as we all know, it melts the plastic to form it into one. Now, it's fine for gluing detail parts like this and whatever, but glazing, it's something you've got to be really careful of. And I know there's some experience of building model kits, such as the Lancaster bomber up there, and those 3 kits there, and many others I've built, is that if you're not careful, or even if you put slightly too much glue on the glazing, it will ruin it, and it will melt the glazing and it will spoil it basically. And I did not want to risk using poly cement on this model, because then otherwise it would risk me having to go to Bachmann spares to get some new glazing, and that could take ages for a new one to arrive. So you can see why I've used the PVA. I mean, the PVA is still good to use. It's just that I did not want to use poly cement on it at all. And also what I might be doing, I might be switching the driver out of this cab to the other end. I don't know why, it's just a weird thing. But yeah, where was we? So yeah, there's the driver in the cab there, as we can see, and there's the glazing. It would be nice if the handrails on all the doors were painted though, but that's just a little minor quibble. But the detail is pretty much the same, like the fuel tank detail, the printed nameplate, the grille there in the middle, and the windows. This detail in here on the ends of the noses, it would have been nice if that was not printed on. That's one thing I will say, but other than that though, it's still stunning in its own way, I think. You know, it's still a beast. And it'll look really good once those details are glued on. There's a bit of cobweb on it at the front there. The roof, we haven't talked about the roof yet. As you can see, you've got the exhaust there, where the fumes come out of. You could weather that bit if you wanted, but I'm not going to bother. Then there's these details up here, these bumps. Don't know entirely what it's for, but it's there. And then you've got these roof fans on here. Now the fans don't spin, but they don't necessarily really need to be honest, and that's something Bachmann don't do. So we'll let that go. But you know, at least there are fans under there. So that's a plus for them. And you've got the mesh grills under there and this detail on top. You know, I mean, that is just really good. But overall, I mean, we've spoke about everything in detail now. She's a stunning model. And I'm sure you'll agree. Yes, regardless of that one detail there, it's only on this one side. That's printed on the end of the nose there. I think we can all agree that it's still a stunning model. And bear in mind, even though this model doesn't have any working lights, because I discovered that when I took the body off, you can fit them in yourself, but, you know, sometimes it's nice to have a bit of everything, like have some models that don't have working lights and some models that do. It's nice to have a variety. That's what I like anyway. But anyway, we need to put her on the tracks and get this beast running to see how she runs. And by the way, that thing with the driver, I'll switch him into the other end of the cab later when I come to adding the details on. I mean, you don't have to necessarily make it the end even if the driver's in it, you know. You can still use it that end and still keep the driver in. In fact, I probably might do that actually, because I don't really want to take the body off again. But then, we'll see. But anyway, enough of the waffle. Let's get it on the track. Right, so here we are at the layout, and we'll get this beast onto the track. And she's on. Well, I'm pretty certain she is. Yeah, she seems on to me. So let's give her a wiggle. Oh yeah, she's definitely on the track. Look at that. That is really smooth. We just need the sound effects for a Deltic now. But anyway, let's get her running. Look at that. Right, well, one thing's for certain, this is a lot smoother than the Lima model. Because the Lima model is really noisy and it's not as a smooth runner as the Bachmann model. I mean, that is really smooth. So she goes under the bridge and over the crossing and through the tunnel. I have decided I'm just going to leave that driver in the cab and just make the other end as the front. Seems a bit weird, I know, but why not? I mean, you could always take the driver out in the cab if you want and put him on the other end, or put two in the cab, one at each end, but it's up to you. But I'm just going to leave it as it is. So I don't really want to take the body off again. I know I said I was going to make the one end with the driver at the front, but then I changed my mind. And now I am entitled to doing that. But there she goes, passing the seaside. That will have detail on, trust me. Do excuse how the four-rep is being disconnected when it's just lying randomly on the layout, so we'll put it back on the layout soon. Then just past the shed where the breakdown train is there. Passing the airfield and back under the bridge and over the crossing again. And through the tunnel once more. Out the other end. And passing the sidings where the mineral wagons are there. Passing the signal box and through the station where all the people are admiring the sights of the Deltic going through the station. Then past the grounded coach body, and then back through past the seaside. So now let's get some close-ups of her. Before we couple her up to a train. So now we're going to have the Deltic pulling the Poorman train. And because it's a long train, some of the coaches are still inside the tunnel. She can haul them easily because I've had her running around the layout with these. As you can see, there's a chocolate and cream brake coach there, like it's supposed to be a luggage coach. Because this was inspired by seeing Ellisington on the Severn Valley hauling the Golden Jubilee Poorman, which was using the Poorman coaches from the Venice Simplon Orient Express. And it inspired me in this review to... You will have seen the video on that on YouTube, as well as Tor Valley hauling that train at Erdington Bank. Fantastic day that was, and that's inspired me to get this Deltic coupled up to the Raker Poorman coaches. So I've recreated the train in some sense. All I'm missing now is that Deltic Thistle headboard, which I am going to get one. I am going to stick on the front of the Deltic, so that'll be nice. But anyway, let's get her going. She can pull it with ease. Just you watch. Because I'm sure some of you are thinking, no she can't. Well, she can. And this is the proof. Nothing to it. It's almost like the coaches are not even there. I mean, there's about 9 coaches there, or something stupid. Yeah, there is 9 there. I've just counted them in my head. But they're nothing to her, basically. I mean, I know there should be another one of those chocolate and cream brake coaches at the back, but I haven't got any more. But it's still recreated the train. I mean, this is what's nice about having a full rack of Poorman coaches with the same roofs, because if it's just mixed together with coaches with different colour roofs, it just doesn't look right. But wow, I mean, the Lima model wouldn't even be this strong, because I tried it before and couldn't manage, but this Bachmann one, it can do it easily. I mean, for one thing, all the weight's doing the traction, it doesn't need traction tyres. I think you better get it going a bit faster. Yeah, look at that. But anyway, I think we should get some close-ups of this now. All in the Poorman train. So for the conclusion, well, actions speak louder than words. You've seen the locomotive detail, you've seen its running performance and its strength. You've got to get one of these. Don't get the Lehman model, get the Bachmann model. I mean, even if you want more than one of these, get them. I'm just so glad I've got my hands finally on possession on a Bachmann Deltic. And who knows, I might have to get a second one myself. Because I have doubled up on most locomotives, diesel ones, or steam, so why not? I mean, I know I've only got one Class 37 at the moment, because I sold the other two off. But I will get a second Class 37 at a later date. And if I am going to decide on getting a second Deltic, which is possible, it won't be just yet. And if I do go for a second Deltic, it's going to be another BR green one. Not that there's anything wrong with the BR blue livery, but the BR green livery is something to admire. And it's probably one of the nicest liveries actually that you can get loco in. That's all there is to say about it really.